For over a century, cars have driven us through the highs and lows of automotive history. From design disasters to mechanical nightmares, some models stand out for all the wrong reasons. Today, we're counting down the top 20 worst cars in US history. Stick around to find out our pick for the absolute worst. Number 20. Renault Fuego. At number 20 is the 1982 Renault Fuego.
Fuego is Spanish for fire, and Renault hoped that the Renault Fuego, like the American Pontiac Fiero, would inflame customers' desires in the 1980s.
Renault teamed up with the American Motors Corporation in 1982 to bring the stylish Fuego, which means fire in Spanish, to the American market as a sports car. But there was a big issue. Americans wanted their sports cars to be, well, sporty, and the Fuego just didn't deliver. Its soft suspension, overboosted steering, and overly comfy seats made it anything but a true sports car. The base engine, with only 57 horsepower, was laughably slow. Even the turbocharged engine with 107 horsepower could only manage a 0 to 60 time of just over 10 seconds. Not impressive for a sports car. Renault tried to improve things by enlarging the base engine for the 1984 model year, but this just made the turbocharged version pointless since the performance difference between the two engines narrowed without any real improvement. The Fuego's failure to provide the sporty driving experience people expected led to its downfall. By 1985, Renault got the message and discontinued the Fuego. The car's inability to win over American sports car fans marked the end of its brief and forgettable run in the market. The Fuego's short-lived presence serves as a reminder that style alone can't make up for a lack of true performance in the competitive sports car world. Number 19. Edsel Corsair.
They'll know you've arrived when you drive up in the 1958 Edsel, the car that's truly new from nameplate to taillights.
Coming in at number 19 is the infamous 1958 Edsel Corsair. Ford aimed for a non-existent market niche with the redecorated Mercury, resulting in a legendary flop. Named after Edsel Ford, the first child of Henry and Clara Ford, the name didn't roll off the tongue easily. Buyers typically prefer either name recognition or something that sounds cool. Dealers had to store the Edsel undercover and faced fines or franchise loss if they showed the cars before the release date. Despite high public curiosity and record numbers attending its unveiling on E-Day, September 4, 1957, the public left without buying. The Edsel's quality control issues were worsened by Ford dealership mechanics' lack of additional training, leading to unfamiliarity with the car's state-of-the-art technology. The biggest problem was its automatic teletouch transmission, where the driver selected gears by pushing buttons on the center of the steering wheel. This innovative feature proved to be more of a hindrance than a help, as it was unreliable and confusing for many drivers. The combination of these factors led to the Edsel's quick demise, cementing its place in automotive history as one of the biggest flops. The Edsel Corsair remains a cautionary tale about the risks of overestimating market demand and the importance of thorough mechanic training for new technologies. It became such a large commercial failure that the name Edsel remains synonymous with commercial failure in American popular culture. It was a big financial flop, generating losses estimated between $250 million and $350 million and bankrupting many Ford dealers. Number 18. Chrysler PT Cruiser. Coming in at number 18 is the 2001 Chrysler PT Cruiser. The designers aimed to create something fresh and innovative by drawing inspiration from the past, but they probably didn't expect it to land on the list of the worst American cars. Launched in 2001 and discontinued in 2010 due to poor reception, the PT Cruiser had an interesting ride. When it first hit the market, the PT Cruiser got a lot of love, even snagging Motor Trend's Car of the Year award. This early praise likely kept it around longer than it should have. People initially dug its unique look, decent engine, and affordable price. However, over time, its retro-style design started to feel more silly than stylish. Performance-wise, the PT Cruiser didn't impress either. It had a roomy interior and versatile cargo space, but the engine options and handling left a lot to be desired. Trying to mix modern functionality with vintage aesthetics ended up backfiring as people moved on to more contemporary designs and features. In the end, the PT Cruiser's novelty wore off, and its charm faded, leading to its downfall. The journey from Car of the Year to one of the worst American cars is a reminder of the risks of relying too much on past designs without meeting modern performance and style expectations. Number 17. Ford Pinto.
From the first day we built Pinto, we measured it in our minds against the toughest competitor in the world, ourselves. We decided to invent the basic little economy car all over again. The car that would run and run and run and get lots of miles to the gallon.
At number 17 is the 1971 Ford Pinto. Ford decided to tackle the competition from abroad head-on. In 1968, Ford executives, led by Lee Iacocca, decided to produce the Pinto, which was known inside the company as Lee's car. The goal was for it to weigh no more than 2,000 pounds and cost no more than $2,000. To meet these targets and have the car ready for the 1971 model year,
early marketing for the Ford Pinto announced it as the little carefree car. Advertisements told customers that by buying a Ford Pinto, they could leave their cares about high prices, maintenance, and value at the door.
Easy repairs, inexpensive parts, well, you can change bumpers or...
Ford compressed the usual design to production time from 3.5 years to just 2. This rushed schedule meant that any design changes typically made before production had to be made during it. Built to a strict $2,000 base price, the subcompact Pinto notoriously lacked protection for its rear-mounted fuel tank. Ford knew the Pinto was a serious fire hazard when struck from the rear, even in low-speed collisions, and ended up paying out millions in judgments. CNN named it one of the most questionable cars of all time, saying, "Images of flaming Pintos are so seared into the public consciousness that it's probably hard for most people, unaided by photograph, to conjure a mental image of the car while not on fire." Autoblog ranked the Pinto number 1 on its list of the 20 dumbest cars of all time. It also placed 3rd on Car Talk's 2000 Worst Car of the Millennium survey and was ranked the 16th worst car of all time by Edmunds.com. Number 16. DeLorean DMC-12.
DeLorean. Gull-wing doors rise effortlessly, beckoning you inside. The sleek, stainless steel DeLorean.
At number 16 is the 1981 DeLorean DMC-12. These cars captured the imagination of car fans even before Back to the Future made them famous. However, those unlucky enough to own one quickly realized how bad they were. The V6 engine only produced 130 horsepower, far less than needed for serious performance. The build quality was a major letdown too. The British government invested millions in DeLorean on the condition that they build a factory in Northern Ireland, ignoring the fact that no one there knew much about building cars. Early buyers paid over $25,000, which is around $70,000 today. But once people realized how awful the car was, John Z. DeLorean was left with thousands of unsold cars. DeLorean Motor Company shut down in 1982, and the last cars were badged as 1983 models. The DeLorean was overpriced and hit the market during a recession in the United States, its main target market. The inexperience of the Northern Irish workforce and the car's underdeveloped design led to poor quality and disappointing performance. Even hiring Lotus founder Colin Chapman to help improve the car didn't make a difference. Number 15. Cadillac Cimarron. Coming in at number 15 is the 1982 Cadillac Cimarron, a not-so-subtle attempt to take on BMW with what was essentially a dressed-up front-wheel drive four-cylinder Chevy Cavalier. Wait, isn't that just a Cavalier with a new grille and some leather seats? The Cavalier itself wasn't the problem. Many people liked it, but trying to sell it as a Cadillac didn't fool anyone. The Cimarron marked a low point in the history of American luxury cars, competing against models like the Audi 5000, BMW 320i, Volvo 240 GLE, and the Saab 900. The Cimarron fell short. Thankfully, it was discontinued in 1988, and today we have much more deserving Cadillac models like the Escalade SUV and the CT5V sports sedan. Automotive critic Dan Neal harshly criticized the Cimarron, saying, "Everything that was wrong, venal, lazy, and mendacious about GM in the 1980s was crystallized in this flagrant insult to the good name and fine customers of Cadillac." This bit of temporizing nearly killed Cadillac and remains its biggest shame. Forbes included the Cimarron in its list of legendary car flops, pointing out its low sales and poor performance, while CNN Money bluntly described it as, in all important respects, a Chevrolet Cavalier with a much higher price tag. Ultimately, it was neither a good Cadillac nor a good value. Number 14. Volkswagen Fox. Coming in at number 14 is the 1987 Volkswagen Fox. In the early 1990s, as the Hyundai Excel and the Yugo GV were flying off the shelves, Volkswagen seemed to have a moment of nostalgia. They took their Brazilian Gol, rebadged it, and brought it to the US as the Fox, a car so basic they couldn't even give it an F. For some reason, a tachometer was only available if you got the four-door version. While it handled okay, the Fox swayed like a yacht in turns. It wasn't until 1993 that Volkswagen realized the Fox was doing them no favors, and they finally pulled it from the US market. The Volkswagen Fox had a 1.8-liter inline-4 engine that put out a modest 81 horsepower, which was considered underwhelming even back in the late 80s. Despite its lackluster performance, it did offer decent fuel efficiency, appealing to budget-conscious buyers during a time of fluctuating gas prices. However, its bare-bones interior and lack of advanced features didn't impress a market that was getting more competitive and tech-savvy. Even though it was affordable, the Fox had reliability issues, leading to frequent repairs and frustrated owners. Its simplistic design and minimal approach meant it lacked the comfort and convenience found in other cars of its time. By the time it was discontinued in 1993, the Volkswagen Fox had left a mixed legacy as an economical, yet forgettable entry in the automotive market. Number 13. Oldsmobile Supreme Diesel. At number 13 is the 1979 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Diesel. And as bad as the 5.7-liter Olds Diesel V8 was, the 4.3-liter version was even worse. Found only in the 1979 Cutlass, the 4.3-liter diesel churned out a measly 90 horsepower before falling apart. The first Oldsmobile diesels appeared in 1978 with a modified 5.7-liter 350 cubic inch V8. By 1979, they added the 4.3-liter 261 cubic inch V8, offering diesel engines in 19 Oldsmobile models and promising up to 32 miles per gallon from the diesel Cutlass and up to 28 miles per gallon from the diesel-powered Cutlass Cruiser station wagon. However, these impressive fuel economy figures couldn't make up for the engine's notorious unreliability and frequent breakdowns. The 4.3-liter diesel V8 had serious design flaws, leading to widespread mechanical failures and costly repairs. Drivers reported issues like head gasket failures, cracked engine blocks, and fuel system problems, making it one of the most problematic engines of its time. These reliability issues crushed consumer confidence and severely damaged Oldsmobile's reputation. The backlash was so intense that General Motors had to step in, eventually phasing out their diesel engines. In hindsight, the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Diesel is a reminder of how cutting corners in engine design can lead to disaster for an automaker. Number 12. Chrysler Laser.
Chrysler creates a more powerful laser because the competition is always on our tail, and we intend to keep.
At number 12 is the 1984 Chrysler Laser. Remember the Chrysler Laser? Probably not, and you're not alone. Even though it was nearly identical to the Dodge Daytona, it was only available in upscale trims. Produced from 1984 to 1986, the Laser was Chrysler's attempt at creating an executive personal luxury coupe with European flair. It had a sleek aerodynamic design with a drag coefficient of 0.35, a large hatchback, and a deck lid spoiler, making it quite spacious. The 1984 Laser came in two trims, Standard and XE. In mid-1985, the XT trim was added as the top-of-the-line version. All three trims continued until the Laser quietly disappeared in mid-1986. The Laser featured a turbocharged 2.2-liter four-cylinder engine that produced up to 174 horsepower in the top turbo model, which was considered strong performance for the time. Reviewers praised the Laser's handling, calling it fun and saying it handled like a dream. With its distinctive aero styling, grille-less front end, rear light bar, and available alloy wheels, the Laser stood out visually. It also boasted advanced electronics for the era, including a digital dashboard, electronic voice alert, and an electronic monitor system. The Rally Sport RS model added sportier touches like a black roof, body-colored Targa band, and unique exterior trim. Overall, the Chrysler Laser combined performance, advanced features, and unique styling, making it a memorable car of its time. Number 11. Yugo. Number 11 on our list is the 1987 Yugo. This bargain bin version of the Fiat 127 seemed like it couldn't possibly be as bad as its dirt cheap price tag suggested, but oh boy, it was. Even though it was a communist-era creation, dealers had folks queuing up 10 deep to snag one. Yugo America even moved a whopping 1,050 cars in just one day. But what goes up must come down. It had serious quality issues, taking a leisurely 14 seconds to crawl up to 60 miles per hour and maxing out at a blistering 86 miles per hour. Then came the reviews. Saturday Night Live, Leno, Letterman, even The Simpsons got in on the action. Kids quacked jokes about it. The end finally came in 1992 during the Yugoslav Civil War. Yugo America went belly up, and the United Nations slapped a trade embargo on Serbia that included Yugo parts. The Yugo quickly became the punchline of every car joke and a poster child for shoddy automotive craftsmanship. Its reliability problems, like electrical failures and rust issues, were legendary. Despite its rock-bottom price, the Yugo's constant breakdowns and hefty maintenance bills wiped out any initial savings for buyers. Late-night talk shows and sitcoms didn't help, turning it into a running gag. The perfect storm of mechanical woes and geopolitical turmoil spelled the end for the ill-fated Yugo. By '92, Yugo America's bankruptcy and the UN embargo closed the curtain on this short-lived, calamitous chapter in American motoring history. Number 10. Pontiac LeMans. Number 10 brings us the 1988 Pontiac LeMans. Now, folks initially waved it off as a Korean piece of crap, but surprise, it was actually a German piece of crap. Originally cooked up as the Opel Kadett for Europe, GM sorted out the kinks and then handed it over to Daewoo in Korea to mess up all over again. Why slap on a name associated with a prestigious French race? Maybe because both were unlikely to last more than 24 hours, or perhaps because Le Mans sounds eerily like lemons in French, a fitting nod to its resemblance to a certain sour fruit. Yep, first-time buyers lured into Pontiac showrooms by flashy ads and low prices quickly learned about the joys of iffy build quality and tanking resale value.
첨단 기술, 연비 혁신, 미래 감각의 안전 설계.
Pontiac pulled the plug on this tiny, budget-friendly ride after just 5 years, deciding young Americans had their fill. The 1988 Pontiac Le Mans came in a 3-door hatchback or 4-door sedan flavor, packing a peppy 1.5-liter 4-cylinder engine paired with either a 5-speed stick shift or a 3-speed auto. It was Pontiac's littlest and cheapest offering back then, but sales were meh, as its rep for being a bit crap overshadowed its affordability. Fun fact, up north in Canada, they sold it as the Asuna SE GT. Number 9. Chevrolet Vega.
This is the Vega Standard Sedan, our most inexpensive model. And although it's inexpensive, there's definitely nothing cheap about it. Because even our standard sedan...
Number 9 on our list is the 1971 Chevrolet Vega. This car had an engine that couldn't hold oil and seemed like GM didn't have much love for its buyers. It's notorious for pushing Americans towards Toyotas and Hondas. However, it did find some redemption as a decent pro-stock racer. The Chevrolet Vega is etched in history as one of General Motors' biggest disappointments, a small car plagued by rust issues, gas tank fires, and engines that had a tendency to overheat and warp. Despite being designed with innovative processes, the Vega's aluminum engine, meant to be its standout feature, turned out to be its downfall due to frequent overheating issues and cylinder distortion. Adding to its woes, the Vega's body quickly earned a reputation for premature rusting, often showing signs of corrosion within months of purchase. Build quality problems were also rampant, from misaligned body panels to electrical glitches, highlighting GM's rushed and cost-cutting approach. Despite its initial popularity, the Vega's reliability problems led to a sharp decline in sales and trust among consumers. This marked a turning point as many Americans turned to Japanese brands known for better durability and performance. By the time production ceased in 1977, the Chevrolet Vega had become a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of ambitious innovation without solid execution and quality control. Number 8. Chrysler Imperial. Number 8 brings us to the 1981 Chrysler Imperial. Chrysler really went all out to make this one an electronic marvel, but the real marvel was how they managed to mess it up so bad, even with their backs against the wall. The Imperial had this fancy digital dashboard that didn't work, an electronic fuel injection system that didn't work either, and a bunch of extra quality checks at the factory that definitely missed the mark. They tried to jazz it up with that weird bustle back styling, basically turning a Dodge Aspen into something heavier with thicker sheet metal, all to handle that emissions-heavy 318 cubic inch engine. And what did it cost? A hefty 18 grand, nearly 4 grand more than a Cadillac Coupe de Ville. Unsurprisingly, fewer than 11,000 poor souls ended up taking one home over its 3-year run. Luckily, Chrysler found redemption with the K-Car, which swept this embarrassment of an Imperial under the rug. The 1981 Chrysler Imperial's laundry list of technical flops and questionable design choices quickly cemented its place as one of the biggest letdowns in luxury car history. It just couldn't deliver on performance, and its constant mechanical headaches left owners shaking their heads. Thankfully, Chrysler bounced back with more sensible and reliable models, proving they could still make a comeback. Number 7. Saturn Ion.
When it's finally time to move on, the new Saturn Ion Quad Coupe has a 140 horsepower engine, rear access door.
Number 7 on our list is the 2003 Saturn Ion. This car was shockingly bad to drive, and the interior didn't do it any favors either. Kick it and your foot might get trapped between those plastic body panels. Saturn touted the Ion as a big deal in its class, packing a beefy engine and a fancy 900 automatic transmission with 5 gears, one more than the competition, whoop-de-doo. The trunk was spacious for an econo-box, and it came loaded with gadgets like speed-sensitive wipers, auto headlights, retained accessory power, and even OnStar. But here's the kicker. The design was a mess. Its styling looked like it was put together by a committee in a hurry, with weird angles and gaps you could lose a sandwich in. The gap between the hood and grille could pass for an air scoop, and those sharp fender edges could practically double as toothpicks. Add in those notorious ignition switch problems that left folks stranded, and it's no wonder the Ion's run ended in '07. Ultimately, the Saturn Ion promised a lot, but delivered a lackluster driving experience and an eyesore of a design. Its reliability issues and lack of charm hastened Saturn's downfall, marking the end of an era for the brand. Number 6. Chevy Citation.
Chevy Citation.
At number 6 is the 1980 Chevy Citation. GM hoped this car would mark a new era, but it ended up being the era of everything is really, really terrible. Even though the Citation was Motor Trend magazine's Car of the Year for 1980, this decision was later criticized by Car and Driver in 2009 for its poor build quality and mechanical reliability. Edmunds summed it up by calling it, "Chevrolet's first front-drive machine proves to be legendarily unreliable and one of the most recalled cars of all time." Despite its flaws, the Citation was priced under $6,000 or $22,187 in 2023 money and offered hatchbacks in a larger package than the Dodge Omni or Plymouth Horizon, leading to high demand. Released in April during a gasoline shortage, Chevrolet sold over 800,000 Citations for the model year. However, as the second gas crisis increased the demand for more fuel-efficient vehicles, GM faced significant shortages of four-cylinder engines, leaving some customers waiting months for their cars. Before the fuel crisis, Chevrolet expected 70% of customers to choose the V6 engine, which led to production lines struggling to keep up with the demand for the four-cylinder models. Number 5. Pacer.
Want this much room, as well as a smooth and stable ride, and really believe you'll only get it in a bigger car, you're in for a pleasant surprise. Because now you can get that room and ride.
At number 5 is the 1975 AMC Pacer. Unfortunately, AMC took a gamble on a quirky, wide, small car with a fishbowl greenhouse and an outdated 6-cylinder engine. When talking about this car, you almost have to start every sentence with, "unfortunately." Initially, the Pacer was a hit, but after a few years it turned into a massive sales disaster for AMC. It was too heavy for a small car and lacked a fuel-efficient 4-cylinder engine to stay competitive in the small car market. Production of this fishbowl car ended in 1980. Despite its flaws, the AMC Pacer's unique design, with lots of glass and a bubble shape, caught the public's eye. Unfortunately, the novelty quickly wore off due to practical issues like poor fuel efficiency and its heavy weight. The Pacer's wide stance provided a roomy interior but made it awkward to maneuver and park compared to other compact cars. Build quality and reliability issues also surfaced, leading to costly repairs and frustrated owners. These problems caused a sharp decline in sales and contributed to AMC's financial troubles. Today, the Pacer is remembered nostalgically, with car enthusiasts and collectors appreciating its quirky design and unique place in automotive history. You can even find AMC Pacer car clubs across the US. Number 4. AMC Gremlin.
American Motors introduces the Gremlin. Are made in America, which makes it easier to park and handle.
At number 4 is the 1970 AMC Gremlin. The Gremlin was basically a chopped-off version of the sleek AMC Hornet, giving it this odd, mismatched look. The front was all low and sleek, like it was ready to cruise fast, but the back? It looked more like a tall hatchback, complete with vacuum-operated windshield wipers. Can you believe it? This weird beast came with a hefty 6-cylinder engine that made its handling a bit choppy, especially without the full suspension in the back. AMC rushed to get this subcompact out before Ford and GM could beat them to it. The Gremlin came in both 2-seater and 4-seater designs. Whether you loved them or hated them, they stuck around until 1978, and some folks still think they're worth preserving. You definitely don't spot many of them on the road these days. Despite its quirks, the AMC Gremlin's unconventional style and oddball features managed to find a niche in the car market. It wasn't perfect with its strange looks and handling quirks, but it was affordable and packed enough punch for its class. Today, it's become a classic icon of the 1970s, cherished by enthusiasts who admire its daring departure from the norm in automotive design. Number 3. Pontiac Aztek. Our number 3 pick for the all-time worst car has to be the 2001 Pontiac Aztek. Hop behind the wheel, and the first thing you notice is its exterior design. Probably the best thing about it. It's notorious for being the car that drove Pontiac into the ground. The Aztek embodied everything wrong with GM's design process. The concept was ahead of its time, envisioning a crossover SUV blending truck toughness with passenger car comfort. GM aimed high, hoping to sell between 50 to 70,000 Azteks a year and position Pontiac at the forefront of automotive innovation. But reality hit hard during production. Cost-cutting decisions forced them to slap the concept onto a minivan platform, wrecking its original proportions and giving it that bizarre rear end that looks like it's doing a push-up. Despite the designers convincing themselves it was good enough, the final product turned out to be this awkward, freakish mashup of car, truck, and SUV. Sales never came close to breaking even, and even a quick restyling 5 months after launch couldn't salvage its reputation. Pontiac finally pulled the plug on the Aztek in 2005, putting an end to its short-lived, infamous legacy. Number 2. Cadillac Alante.
The only way to travel is Cadillac style. Let's go, let's live, let's go.
Number 2 on our list is the 1987 Cadillac Alante. Cadillac's attempt to take on the Mercedes SL wasn't just a car fail, it was a colossal idea fail of the 1980s. Here's the deal. Cadillac thought it would be a great plan to ship partially built car bodies to Italy for mods and paint jobs, then fly them back in 747s because, shipping by sea was too slow for them. They slapped a price tag of $56,000 on these babies back then, which would be a whopping $130,000 in today's money. But here's the kicker. The quality was a nightmare from day one, and these Alantes started stacking up at dealerships like nobody's business. Cadillac, true to form, spent 7 long years trying to salvage this sinking ship before finally pulling the plug in '93. The Alante's fancy production process didn't just jack up costs, it also brought a laundry list of quality issues. From mechanical glitches to electrical gremlins, this car was a headache. Despite Caddy's efforts to tweak everything from engines to interiors during its run, the Alante never shook off its reputation for being a lemon. In the end, its sky-high price tag and persistent problems sealed its fate as one of Cadillac's costliest blunders. Number 1. The Mustang II. Number 1 on our list goes to the 1974 Ford Mustang II. Built on the skimpy frame of the Pinto, this pint-sized pony car was a shocker for Mustang lovers. It looked all wrong, but strangely enough, it hit the jackpot with buyers grappling through the back-to-back fuel crises. When the Mustang II rolled out in '74, it was clear Ford was going in a different direction. Based on the Pinto, this Mustang was tiny, offering a choice of 4 or 6 cylinders and a pretty lackluster V8. Surprisingly though, people didn't hate it. Just as the Mustang II hit the scene, the OPEC oil embargo kicked in, and suddenly small cars like this were all the rage. It sold like hotcakes, with 386,000 flying off the lots in '74, the best year for Mustang since '67. Not bad, especially since it had to share showroom space with the even smaller Pinto. But here's where the love story takes a turn. By '75, the oil embargo was over, and Americans were back to their big gas-guzzling rides. Mustang II sales plummeted to under 190,000, and it kept dropping from there. Despite its initial success during the fuel crunch, the '74 Mustang II, riding on that Pinto platform, just couldn't keep up with the expectations. It left a bitter taste for enthusiasts looking for that classic Mustang punch, marking a controversial chapter in the Mustang's storied history. And that wraps up our countdown of the 20 worst cars in US history. From automotive flops to design disasters, these cars certainly left their mark, albeit not in the best way. Which of these cars surprised you the most? Did we miss anything you think should be on the list? Let us know in the comments below. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.